Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Saturday, February 21st, 2026. And I was just thinking before we started recording, can you believe we were already closing out February?
Yeah, it feels like the year just started, but then at the exact same time, it feels like we've lived through an entire decade in just the last 2 months alone.
That is absolutely the vibe of the times right now, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
And, well, honestly, I want to start today by asking you, the listener, to just take a second and look around. Like, metaphorically, look at the digital landscape we are currently swimming in right now.
It is a very, very crowded and honestly very strange pool we're in.
It really is. And the temperature of the water, so to speak, has changed drastically in just the last, 24 months?
Yeah, barely 2 years.
Think back to 2023 or even 2024. We were all asking things like, is AI actually going to happen? Is this just a bubble? And that conversation is completely dead now. We're living in a post-adoption world.
Completely post-adoption. We aren't testing the waters anymore. We are drowning in them. I mean, AI avatars are reading the nightly news. Search engines are entirely conversational. The algorithms basically know what you want before you even articulate the thought to yourself.
Right.
It's just the baseline now.
It's the plumbing of the internet. It's
Flag.
just there.
Yeah.
And that brings a completely different set of problems than the ones we were all panicking about 2 years ago.
Exactly. We've moved way past the whole wow phase. We are firmly in the utility phase, or, well, maybe you could call it the saturation phase. And that brings us directly to the core tension that we really want to unpack for you today.
Because on one hand, you have this absolute hyper-acceleration of technology.
Yeah.
Generative AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything is faster, it's smarter, it's slicker.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, and I think every single person listening to this right now feels this deep in their bones, there is this massive, almost desperate counter movement happening simultaneously.
The pushback. It's real.
The pushback. It's what we're calling the human imperative. It's like the more digital and optimized the world gets, the more we are craving something that the machine just cannot simulate.
It's the friction. We miss the friction of reality. We miss the messiness of it all.
That is such a great way to put it, the messiness. So today isn't just a simple marketing update. I mean, yes, we are definitely going to talk about how to sell things in 2026 because the landscape is completely fascinating right now.
Right.
But we are going deeper. We are going to look at how interactions with these machines are fundamentally reshaping our brains.
Literally rewiring our neural pathways.
Literally rewiring them, changing the stories we tell, and altering what we fundamentally value as real.
And we have a monster stack of sources today to help us navigate all of this. It's a really diverse, kind of heavy mix today.
We really do. We're pulling from the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We've got brand new industry reports from ARM Worldwide and Google on the marketing trends for 2026.
Crucial stuff.
We've got insights from the Webby Awards and Meltwater on this massive crisis of trust and this concept of AI slop, which, by the way, is officially my favorite term of the year so far.
It's so visceral. You hear AI slop and you know exactly what it smells like.
You can practically taste the synthetic pixels. It's so good. But then we're going to pivot into the hard science. And this is where I think today's deep dive is going to get a little bit uncomfortable for some people.
In a good way, hopefully.
Definitely in a good way, but challenging. We have incredible academic research from the Journal of Psychological Science on how AI actually changes human morality, like biologically changes it.
Yeah, that study is wild.
It is. We also have a study from the ACL anthology comparing human versus AI storytelling capabilities, and a systematic review from Frontiers in Psychology on the Uncanny Valley.
And the mission for us today is to connect all those dots for you, to show that the current marketing trends, like why people are suddenly buying vintage cameras again, or why they're flocking to live in-person events, are actually direct symptoms of these much deeper neurological and psychological shifts.
Precisely. So let's stop looking at these as separate little buckets, like marketing over here and science over there, and let's look at the whole picture. I really want to start with the vibe, the collective emotional state of the world in late February 2026. If you had to sum up the average consumer right now in just one word, what would it be?
Exhausted.
Just straight up tired.
Bone tired. I mean, if you look at the report from Google, specifically the insights from Phil Wilson, he's the VP of ads marketing over there, the data is just screaming this at us. The overwhelming emotional state of the consumer in 2026 is a mix of anxiety, worry, and profound fatigue.
And this isn't just, I stayed up too late binging a show fatigue. This feels incredibly existential.
It is existential. And it stems directly from uncertainty. Wilson points out that long-term planning The kind of planning our parents did, where you save diligently for 5 years to buy a starter house, or you plan a decade out.
Right.
That feels completely futile to a lot of people right now. We've seen so much economic and social turbulence that the distant dream just feels like a lie.
So the horizon is essentially shrunk. We aren't looking at the horizon anymore. We're just looking right down at our feet.
Drastically shrunk. And that shifts the focus entirely to the right now. The big trend they're seeing is this massive prioritization of present well-being. If I can't guarantee that I'll be able to afford a retirement home in 30 years, I might as well try to enjoy my Tuesday afternoon.
This is the pockets of joy concept that the Google report mentions, right?
Exactly. People aren't looking for the big payoff 10 years down the line anymore. They want immediate rewards. Small luxuries. They want validation today.
It's a completely rational coping mechanism when you think about it.
It really is.
If the future is totally volatile and unpredictable, you maximize your present value. It's basically survival economics applied directly to human happiness.
Right. And this is forcing brands to completely rethink their entire loyalty models from the ground up. There was a fantastic example in the Google report regarding British Airways that I think illustrates this perfectly.
Yes, the Avios revamp. I found this fascinating because frequent flyer programs are like the ultimate delayed gratification engine. They're entirely built on the idea of suffering now for some big payoff later.
Historically, yes, absolutely. The whole model was always suffer now, fly later. You take the awful red-eye flight, you cram yourself into a tiny economy seat, you save up your miles for 3 or 4 years, and then maybe...
You can black out dates magically along.
Exactly. If the stars align, you get a free trip to the Maldives.
Right.
But British Airways looked at their current data and realized that that model is fundamentally broken for the 2026 consumer. People just do not want to wait 3 years. They might not even trust that the miles will be worth anything in 3 years.
Or that the airline will even be using the same system.
Right. So they changed it. They completely flipped it. They introduced smaller, much more frequent rewards.
Like what?
Like a free artisanal coffee at the airport terminal, a small instant discount on a rental car, priority boarding on a random Tuesday morning flight. It's all about giving the customer a tangible sense of progress right in this moment.
It's pure dopamine validation.
It is. It says to the customer, we see you. We know things are really hard right now. Here is a little bit of joy today. You don't have to wait for it.
And for anyone listening who is in business or marketing or even just leadership, I think the major takeaway there is so crucial. You just can't sell it someday anymore. You have to validate exactly where the customer is right now.
Yeah.
You have to actually be a part of their survival strategy for this specific week, not just their fantasy for the next decade.
It's about being a companion in their exhaustion rather than being just another demanding force on their time and wallet.
But, and here is the massive catch. You want to connect with this exhausted audience. You want to give them that little pocket of joy, but you are running headfirst into a massive wall. And that wall is the second layer of our stack today, which is the trust crisis.
This brings us straight to the Webby Awards and Meltwater Insights. And frankly, looking at their numbers, it's pretty grim regarding institutional trust.
They really are grim. It feels like the floor has just entirely fallen out from under us.
We are seeing a historic fragmentation of trust. The days of trusting big, monolithic institutions, whether that's big government, big legacy media, or especially big tech, those days are fading fast. People are rapidly moving their trust to very niche communities, specific online personalities, private Discord servers, encrypted group chats.
We are circling the wagons.
Yeah.
We only trust the people we can actually see, the people who feel authentically real.
We are. And a huge, huge driver of this massive distrust, specifically in the digital space, is this concept of AI slop.
Let's really unpack that term, because I see it used all the time on social media, but I want to be very specific for our listeners. What exactly qualifies as slop?
So slop is the incredibly low-effort, high-volume content that is just churned out by AI with absolutely zero human oversight or artistic intent behind it.
The filler?
Yeah, the filler. It's the generic SEO articles that go on for 10 pages and say absolutely nothing useful. It's the weirdly smooth, glossy AI images of people where they have like 7 fingers or their teeth blend together into one giant tooth.
Oof, the teeth.
It's the worst. Or it's the customer service chatbots that just talk in endless circles and constantly apologize to you without ever actually solving your problem.
It's digital filler.
Right.
It's basically styrofoam packing peanuts for the human brain.
It's pure pollution.
Yeah.
And Anthony Cousins, the VP over at Meltwater, he makes a really important point here in the report. He says the honeymoon period is officially over.
We actually had a honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Feels like we skipped straight to the messy divorce.
No, we really did have one. Think back to late 2023, early 2024, when ChatGPT first really hit the mainstream, or when Midjourney version 5 dropped. There was a massive novelty factor.
Okay, true.
We were all just like, wow, look what the machine just made. It wrote a poem. It drew a picture of a cat riding a skateboard. We were so impressed just by the mere functionality of it.
Right, it was a magic trick. We applauded the simple fact the rabbit came out of the hat. We really didn't care if the rabbit looked a little bit weird or if the poem wasn't actually very good literature.
Exactly. We were all grading on a massive curve. But now, in 2026, the magic has completely worn off. We know exactly how the trick works. We aren't impressed that you can generate content anymore. We only care about whether that content is actually any good.
And the reality is a vast majority of it just isn't. It's just noise.
It's noise. And audiences are incredibly sophisticated now. They have developed this highly sensitive slop radar. They can subconsciously smell the lack of humanity in a post or an article.
They really can. And this creates a very, very dangerous environment for brands. Because if you get tagged by your audience as a purveyor of slop, you lose that precious trust instantly. And it's almost impossible to get back. Cousins points out that trust in 2026 isn't just about the quality of the output, it's about the intent behind it.
Intent.
Yeah, but intent is a really fuzzy word. How does a consumer actually judge intent from a quick piece of content or a brief customer service interaction?
They essentially ask one very simple question in their heads. Why did you use the AI?
Okay, walk me through that. How does that play out?
All right, scenario A. You are a massive company. You decide to fire your entire customer service team, actual humans who have families and mortgages, and you replace them with a cheaper chatbot that barely functions. Why did you use AI in that scenario?
To cut costs.
Exactly. To improve your bottom line at the direct expense of the customer experience and your own employees. That is universally perceived as bad intent.
And the consumer absolutely feels that. They feel devalued. They feel like they are just a line item on some executive spreadsheet.
Precisely. Now, let's look at scenario B. You use AI to automate the really tedious back-end scheduling, the mindless data entry, the basic translation work, all the sludge of the daily work.
Right.
And you do that so that your actual human employees are freed up to spend 20 real minutes on the phone with a customer, really diving into and solving a complex issue. That is good intent.
Because you used the technology to enhance the human connection, not to just cheaply replace it.
Exactly.
There was a fantastic quote in the Webby report from the author Joanna Masijuska that I think just perfectly encapsulates this entire cultural sentiment. I know it went viral a while back, but it's really still the defining quote of this specific era.
Oh, I love this quote. Everyone needs to hear it.
She said, quote, "I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes."
It just hits the nail squarely on the head. I think we all collectively feel like we've been sold a bill of goods, where the AI gets to have all the fun, incredibly creative experiences. It's out there writing poetry, making award-winning images, coding video games, and we are still stuck at home doing the literal chores.
It feels like a massive betrayal of the original promise of technology. Automation was supposed to free us for creativity, not free us from it.
So if a brand wants to actually build and maintain trust in 2026, they have to deliberately flip that script. They have to actively show their audience that they are using tech to empower human creativity, not to sideline it.
And transparency is completely non-negotiable here.
Absolutely non-negotiable. If you use AI to create something, you have to say so. Don't try to hide it. Deception, or honestly even just trying to be vaguely elusive about it, destroys trust instantly. In a world full of deepfakes and bots, radical honesty is the premium currency.
If you generated the image, tag it. If I'm talking to a bot, tell me right up front.
Yes.
Okay, so if slop is out, what is actually in? What is the antidote to all of this?
The clear antidote is the human imperative. And the ARM Worldwide Report highlights this beautifully with some hard numbers. Despite the massive AI boom, or honestly, maybe because of it, we are seeing a huge pendulum swing back to human-first content.
They cited some really specific data from Sprout Social's 2025 Pulse survey that I found super surprising, because I think most people just assume that short-form video, TikTok, Reels, Shorts, is the undisputed king of everything and will remain so forever.
You would naturally think so. The algorithm obviously loves video. It keeps eyes glued to the screen. But the data shows something completely different happening, specifically on Instagram.
What's happening?
Carousel.
The photo slideshows.
Yeah, the static photo slideshows. They're actually outperforming video reels by 12% in terms of engagement, and they're outperforming single static posts by a staggering 114%.
Wait, really? The swiping slideshows. Why?
Yeah.
That seems so counterintuitive in a world that is moving at warp speed.
You have to think about the underlying user experience. A reel is entirely passive. It just washes over you. You're simply a spectator in an endless stream of moving images.
You just stare and scroll.
Right. But a carousel, you actually have to physical swipe. You have to read the text on each slide. It requires a narrative structure. It feels like a serialized, distinctively human thought process unfolding.
It actually slows you down. It demands a tiny little bit of active attention.
Exactly. In a feed that is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour, the one thing that gently asks you to stop, swipe, and read a cohesive story feels incredibly substantial.
It feels like a conversation, not just a quick dopamine hit.
Right. It strongly signals that a real human being actually sat down, thought about a topic, and organized their thoughts into a sequence.
That's a really profound insight. It's less about the actual content format and much more about the context of human effort.
And it's definitely not just happening on social media. We're seeing this exact same shift in search engines too right now. Look at how Perplexity is evolving, or even the way ChatGPT handles standard queries now.
Right, the generic Wikipedia-style summary is losing a ton of value. I don't want the dry encyclopedia definition anymore.
The ARM report explicitly notes that search engines are increasingly prioritizing content that feels distinctly human, hyperspecific, and deeply authentic. They are actively downranking the generic AI slop because they know nobody wants to read it.
People want the niche expert.
They do. They want the random Reddit thread where a guy named Dave explains step by step how he actually fixed his specific dishwasher model in his own kitchen.
Because Dave has actual skin in the game.
Yeah.
Dave actually got his hands wet and scraped
Right.
his knuckles. The AI just scraped the PDF manual.
Precisely. So trying to be a generic content farm is a completely losing strategy in 2026. It is dead on arrival. If you aren't actively adding a specific lived human perspective, you are essentially invisible to the algorithm now.
And this intense craving for the real extends offline too, which I love. We really have to talk about the live experience, because this feels like the biggest, most visceral counter-trend to all the digital acceleration.
It absolutely is. Elon Musk actually made a very bold prediction about this recently, which the report cites. He suggested that as digital content becomes infinite and essentially completely free to produce, live physical events will become the ultimate scarce commodity.
It's just basic economics playing out. Digital abundance inherently creates physical scarcity.
Precisely. If I can instantly generate a 4K movie on my laptop for free, the concept of a movie becomes way less special.
Yeah.
But I cannot, no matter what I prompt the AI with, generate the actual physical feeling of being in a concert stadium with 50,000 screaming people.
I can't prompt an AI to give me the feeling of getting shoved in a mosh pit or the feeling of a quiet theater holding its breath when an actor forgets a line.
Right. People are desperately craving raw spontaneity, real community energy. They want the unpredictable vibes of a room full of living, breathing people. Unpredictable is the absolute keyword there.
Unpredictable. Because an algorithm is literally designed to predict. It only shows you what it statistically thinks you want to see. It actively removes all the friction from your day. But a live event. The microphone might suddenly cut out. The drummer might drop a stick. The keynote speaker might make a completely unscripted joke that bombs horribly, or one that completely changes your life. It has genuine risk.
And risk is what makes it feel real. We are so utterly bored of these perfectly optimized, hyper-safe digital experiences. We want the slight danger of reality back.
So brands are shifting budgets heavily into pop-ups, hybrid activations, local meetups. They are actively trying to get off the performative stage of Instagram and get down into the mud of the real world with their customers.
And internally, the structure of companies is changing to reflect this too. There is this massive emerging trend called marketer-led advocacy.
Which means what exactly in practice?
It means the marketing team isn't just the siloed department that buys Facebook ads anymore. They are taking ownership of the actual product experience and the community building. Think of fast-growing brands like CLA or RFs. They don't just hire a random pretty influencer who has never even touched their software to read a teleprompter script.
Right, the classic, hey guys, I am totally obsessed with this product I just opened out of the box 5 seconds ago vibe.
Which absolutely nobody believes anymore. It's dead. Instead, They use their internal teams, the actual employees who build, debug, and use the tool every single day to lead the public conversation.
So instead of a rented face, you get a real, flawed, knowledgeable voice.
Because authenticity has to come from the inside out now. Internal marketers inherently understand the ecosystem better than any external agency ever could. They can actually speak the nuanced language of the power user because they are the power user.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second and take stock of the massive landscape we've just painted here.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. We have incredibly tired consumers who are desperately looking for tiny pockets of joy. We have a massive systemic trust crisis fueled entirely by a flood of AI slop. And we have a widespread cultural rejection of the generic in favor of the human, the specific, and the live experience.
That is the external world. That's the state of the market right now.
Right. But now I really want to go deeper. I want to go internal. Because this isn't just about what we are buying or how we are marketing. This is about what interacting with these machines all day is actually doing to us, physically and biologically.
Let's go straight to the brain. This is the fascinating stuff.
We have this heavy-hitting study from the Journal of Psychological Science by Goswami and colleagues. And I really have to be honest with you, when I was reading this prep material last night, it deeply unsettled me.
It should unsettle you. It scientifically confirms what a lot of us have quietly suspected for the last year, but just didn't have the hard fMRI data to prove.
Right.
This study rigorously looked at the actual neural mechanisms of human-AI interaction and compared them directly to human interaction. And the main headline is stark. Our brains absolutely do not treat them the same way.
We aren't fooled by the human-sounding voice.
We aren't fooled at all, but it goes way further than simply knowing it's a machine. The fundamental way we process the interaction is biologically different. The researchers used fMRI data, so they are actively looking at real-time blood flow in the brain while subjects are chatting, and they focused on some very specific regions.
Okay.
What they definitively found was that when we interact with an AI, there is significantly measurably reduced activity in the insula and the MCC, which is the mid-cingulate cortex.
Okay, for those of us who maybe skipped intro to neuroscience in college, break that down for me. What exactly does the insula do?
The insula is a truly fascinating part of the brain. It's absolutely crucial for interoception, which is basically your brain's sense of the internal state of your physical body.
Like knowing I'm hungry or cold.
Exactly. But it is also the core center of empathy in humans. It's the physical part of the brain that literally helps you feel what someone else is feeling.
Oh.
If I am standing next to you and I see you accidentally smash your thumb with a hammer, my insula physically lights up on a scan. I wince. My brain is simulating your pain so I can understand it.
And what about the MCC, the mid-cingulate cortex?
The MCC is heavily involved in processing pain, but also processing social feedback and emotional regulation. It's the region that helps us constantly navigate complex social hierarchies and unwritten norms. It helps us intrinsically understand that our actions have social and emotional consequences on the people around us.
Okay, so to summarize, when I am talking to you, a real human, those parts of my brain are lit up. I am empathetic, I am highly socially aware, I am emotionally online.
Correct. You are actively engaged in the human social contract.
When I pull out my phone and talk to an AI avatar,
those regions go completely dark, or at the very least, they dampen down significantly. We intrinsically attribute much less mind to the AI. We become emotionally flatter. We don't bother simulating their internal state because we biologically know on a deep level that they simply don't have one.
Now, okay, the extreme skeptic in me hears that and says, so what? It's literally a machine. Why should I have deep emotional empathy for a toaster? Why should I care if my MCC doesn't light up when I just asked ChatGPT to generate a chicken recipe for dinner?
That is a completely valid question. And honestly, if the neural dampening stayed entirely contained to the brief interaction with the machine, it probably wouldn't be a major societal problem.
But it doesn't stay contained.
Exactly. The study raises a truly terrifying psychological possibility, which they call the spillover effect.
Oof, the spillover effect.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly ominous.
It is. Think of human empathy as a physical muscle, or think of it as a neural pathway that constantly needs to be used and reinforced to stay strong.
Use it or lose it.
Exactly. If you start spending 8 to 10 hours a day interacting primarily with entities that require absolutely zero empathy from you, entities that you can be incredibly rude to, entities you can constantly boss around and demand things from, entities that have absolutely no feelings to hurt,
Right.
what happens to that empathy muscle over time?
It starts to atrophy. It gets weak from disuse.
That's the exact fear. The study's data suggests that frequent AI interactions actually make us more utilitarian in general. We become more cold and calculating. We start to care significantly less about established social norms.
Because the AI never judges us for our tone.
Exactly. It causes reduced social image concern. You genuinely do not care what ChatGPT thinks of your personality. You can be as rude as you want. You can be overly demanding. You can even ask it to do somewhat unethical things, and there is zero social friction. There is no consequence.
And the massive danger there is that we start unconsciously carrying that main character energy into our real physical lives. We get so used to being the undisputed commander of our digital world.
And then you go down to the local coffee shop, and the teenage barista accidentally gets your complicated order wrong.
And we just immediately react with the exact same utilitarian coldness that we were just using with the bot on our phone. We literally forget that the barista has a functioning insula, too. We forget they are human.
We treat them like a malfunctioning interface instead of a person.
That is so dark. But there was also this other concept in the study, the scapegoat effect, which I found maybe even darker than the spillover effect.
Oh, this part is endlessly fascinating. They found that people systematically blame AI more than humans for identical harms. But more importantly, humans are actively using AI as a proxy to execute immoral or tough actions.
Like what? Give me a concrete scenario of how someone launders their morality through an AI.
Okay, imagine you are a middle manager at a mid-sized company. You are told you need to fire 10% of your staff by Friday. That is an incredibly painful, highly socially costly thing for a human being to do. It hurts your empathy centers to do it.
Right. I have to call them into an office, look them in the eye, and physically feel their distress. It sucks.
But what if you use a new AI HR algorithm to determine exactly who to fire based on productivity metrics? And then you have an automated AI agent actually draft and send the personalized termination emails to their inboxes.
Wow. Then I can just say to myself, well, the algorithm made the optimal decision. I'm literally just the messenger here. I didn't want to do it. The machine said it was necessary.
Exactly. It perfectly facilitates moral hypocrisy. It allows us to artificially distance ourselves from the direct consequences of our own actions. We effectively outsource the heavy burden of guilt to the machine.
That is terrifying. It's like we are actively laundering our human conscience through an offshore server.
Laundering our conscience. That is a truly perfect way to describe it. And if we, as a culture, get completely comfortable doing that, if we get comfortable outsourcing our moral agency so we don't have to feel bad,
What does that actually do to society as a whole?
it creates a society of people who are completely morally detached. People who are just blindly following the mathematically optimized path without any emotional friction.
And that actually leads us perfectly right into the next piece of the puzzle, which is storytelling. Because if we're so willing to outsource our hard decisions, we are definitely also outsourcing our stories. And we have this incredible ACL anthology paper called Tales of Morality, which clearly shows that AI tells stories very, very differently than humans do.
This was the really clever study where the researchers showed the exact same images to both human writers and to LLMs. Specifically, they were testing GPT-4o.
Right. And they just asked a very simple prompt, write a short story based on this picture.
Very simple prompt. Same visual input, completely different type of storyteller. And the results highlighted a massive systemic gap in how the stories functioned, a gap they officially termed the care bias.
The care bias. Okay, break that down for me. What does that mean in the context of a story?
So the researchers analyzed all these generated stories based on something called moral foundations theory. It's a psychological framework. Basically, humans operate on a complex spectrum of moral values. The main ones are care, fairness, loyalty, authority, and sanctity or purity.
Okay, so we value different moral foundations depending on the specific situation or culture we're in.
Right. What they definitively found was that LLMs are overwhelmingly obsessed with the care foundation, meaning themes of kindness, safety, and actively preventing harm at all costs. Almost every single story the AI wrote eventually revolved entirely around these very safe themes.
Is that inherently a bad thing, though? I mean, who doesn't like safety and kindness?
It's not bad in a vacuum. Of course we like kindness, but it systematically and almost completely underrepresented all the other human moral values. Things like authority, deep tribal loyalty, and purity just didn't show up in the narratives.
Even when the researchers explicitly prompted the AI with specific edgy personas. Like if I specifically told it, write this story from the perspective of a very strict, ruthless military general.
Even then, The AI would start the first paragraph as a strict general, but by the end of the story, it would inevitably drift right back towards a safe care narrative. The general would suddenly realize that, true kindness was his greatest weapon all along. It's
Yep.
almost comical.
Wow. It just can't help itself.
It's like it has been so deeply hard-coded, or RLHF-ed, reinforcement learning from human feedback, to just be the absolute nicest, safest, most HR-friendly storyteller imaginable.
It's complete moral flattening.
Exactly, it's flattened. But real human stories, the ones that endure, aren't always nice. Think about the greatest myths and shows in our culture. The Iliad, Breaking Bad, Succession.
Right. They are completely full of intense betrayal, misguided loyalty, deep conflict, struggles over purity, and massive authority figures clashing. They're incredibly messy.
Humans deeply value loyalty, and sometimes we value it over safety. We value authority structures. We value secret traditions. These are highly complex and very often directly conflicting values. And that specific conflict between values is exactly what makes a story feel human.
The tension.
The AI completely flattens all of that underlying tension into a highly homogenized, Disney-fied version of reality, where literally everyone just learns a gentle lesson about sharing and communicating.
And the structural shape of the stories was fundamentally different too, right? It wasn't just the themes.
Drastically different structure. Human stories have a very distinct, recognizable shape. We call it the classic narrative arc. You have the staging phase, the rising action, a sharp peak of cognitive tension or a massive crisis, and then finally a resolution.
And the AI stories. What was their shape?
Basically a flat line.
Really, no climax at all.
Very, very rarely. They are incredibly linear. It's just first this happened, and then this happened, and then they talked about it, and everyone was happy. There is absolutely no real tension. It's painfully safe.
But the tension is the entire point. Tension is the mechanism that makes us actually feel things when we read or watch something.
Yeah.
Without the buildup of tension, there is no emotional release at the end.
And this brings us right back around to the whole concept of the human imperative. If we lazily let AI start telling all our cultural stories, if we start relying on it to write our blockbuster movies or best-selling books or core marketing narratives,
We seriously risk losing the entire complexity of human morality in our media. We just get this incredibly safe, padded room version of reality that completely lacks the very friction that actually makes us human beings.
it's perfectly akin to the difference between eating a chemically balanced, perfectly optimized nutrient paste out of a tube versus eating a messy, home-cooked family meal that might actually be a little bit burnt on the edges, but it tastes like real love and history.
That is such a perfect analogy, the nutrient paste versus the burnt steak. And biologically, going back to the brain, we are hardwired to violently reject that nutrient paste the second it tries to visually pretend that it's a real steak.
Which leads us directly into the uncanny valley.
Yes, Section 6, the massive review from Frontiers in Psychology. This perfectly connects the brain science back to the AI slop we were talking about earlier.
So most people listening probably vaguely know the pop culture term uncanny valley. It's generally understood as that weird feeling of revulsion you get when a robot or an animation looks almost completely human, but just not quite.
Right, the dead zombie eyes. The skin that's just a tiny bit too aggressively smooth and poreless. The micro movements that are just a millisecond out of sync with the audio.
Exactly. But this academic review goes so much deeper than just saying it's creepy. It rigorously defines the uncanny valley effect, or UVE, not just as a fleeting feeling, but as a deeply ingrained biological defense mechanism. It is quite literally an evolutionary avoidance response.
Meaning we literally evolved to spot and reject fake humans.
Think about our ancient ancestors on the savannah. If you saw something out there that looked somewhat human but wasn't acting right, let's say it had very stiff, jerky movements, incredibly pale skin, and totally unresponsive, staring eyes, what was it?
It was either a corpse or someone who was incredibly dangerously sick with a plague.
Exactly. It's a massive pathogen risk. So your primitive brain instantly screams, danger, stay away from that thing. It biologically triggers immediate anxiety and deep physical disgust to protect you.
Wow. So when we are scrolling our feeds in 2026 and we see these hyper-realistic AI-generated influencer avatars, or we interact with these impossibly enthusiastic video customer service bots that are desperately trying to act like our best friends,
Our primitive lizard brain is literally misfiring. It is subconsciously treating that slick marketing avatar like it is a highly diseased corpse.
oh my God, that completely explains the violent slop reaction. It perfectly explains why we don't just ignore them, we actively physically revolt against them.
Exactly. If massive brands are heavily using these uncanny, hyper-realistic avatars to try and build deep personal connection, they are actually biologically triggering a primal rejection response in their customers. It's totally counterproductive.
So what is the actual solution for a brand? Just never use them.
The solution is, do not try to trick the human brain. The brain always wins. If it's a bot, make it very clearly look like a bot. Make it highly stylized. Make it obviously cartoonish. Or just spend the money and use a real human being. The middle ground, that almost human zone, is the absolute kill zone for brand trust.
So you have to either lean completely into the obvious artificiality of it, or you have to go fully messily human. No in between.
Exactly. And this primal fake human rejection is actually driving a massive new trend in how we search for and discover things online. It's what the Google report calls generative engine optimization, or GEO, and this wild concept of creative maximalism.
I saw that in the Google predictions. Creative maximalism sounds incredibly intense. What does that actually mean?
It really is intense. It's the organic cultural response to the boring, flat, safe AI stories we were just talking about. Search is rapidly moving away from typing in static keywords to this idea of dynamic exploration.
Explain that for me using the IKEA example for the report, the creative AI tool, because that really helped me visualize it.
Okay. In the old days, and by old days I mean literally like 2024, you would go online and just search the text phrase blue sofa, and you would get back a massive static list of blue links and a grid of boring product images on a white background.
Totally boring. Very flat.
Right. Now in 2026, using tools like creative AI, you don't do that. You just scan your actual physical living room with your phone's camera. The AI perfectly maps the space, erases your current ugly couch from the live video feed, deeply understands the ambient lighting and exact geometry of your specific room, and seamlessly inserts the new sofa in real time.
You aren't just searching a database for information anymore. You are literally exploring a brand new personalized reality.
Right, and that's incredibly useful. That is actively using AI for what it is actually uniquely good at: rapid visualization, massive data processing, and complex spatial reasoning. It's not trying to make it be your friend.
It's doing the laundry, not the art.
Exactly. But look closely at the creative maximalism trend. This is all about active, messy participation. Young audiences right now, true digital natives, they absolutely do not want to just passively consume the static IKEA catalog. They want to remix it. They want to break the rules of it.
The example in the report about Epic the Musical was completely wild to me. I honestly hadn't even heard of this phenomenon until I read the brief.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. So this brilliant creator, Jorge Rivera Herranz, he's currently adapting the ancient epic of the Odyssey into this massive, modern musical, which is classic, heavy human storytelling. But instead of just conventionally making an animated movie in a studio and releasing it for people to sit and watch,
He did something totally different.
he just released the raw, high-quality audio tracks online. He put the songs out there into the wild and essentially said to his community, "You guys make the visuals for me."
So he just crowdsourced the entire animation.
He didn't just quietly crowdsource it, he completely unleashed it as a cultural phenomenon.
And the community actually responded to that.
To the tune of over 50,000 unique video uploads.
50,000, that is insane.
50,000 completely different, highly personal interpretations of his original work. There were rough animatics, there were fully rendered 3D cinematic scenes, incredibly detailed cosplay videos, literal stick figure drawings on notebook paper. This is the new gold standard for engagement.
Brands literally need to provide the raw materials.
Yes. Provide the assets, provide the characters, build the sandbox world, and then step back and let the audience actively build the stories themselves.
That is the exact polar opposite of AI slop. Slop is purely passive consumption. It's a brand saying, here's the cheap content, just eat it. This maximalism trend is deep, active co-creation.
And notice the most important part. It is fundamentally human creativity, just being massively amplified by new digital tools. It's not the AI magically making the video from scratch. It's a 16-year-old kid sitting in their bedroom, furiously using AI tools to manifest their specific human vision of the song. That is the massive distinction.
That's the human imperative in actual action. That's art.
Exactly.
It really feels like in this highly chaotic, breakneck, high-tech world, we are simultaneously looking forward and desperately looking backwards.
Nostalgia. It's a massive anchor.
Which brings us to Section 7, the Nostalgia Remix.
It
It effectively anchors the terrifying new tech in the comforting old tech. It basically says to the consumer, hey, this new scary, hyper-fast console, it's actually just a seamless continuation of the pure, simple fun you used to have in your basement when you were 10.
Exactly. It drastically lowers the baseline anxiety of adopting new things. And the other massive anchor we are seeing brands use to combat anxiety is this concept of tangible sustainability.
This is the final major piece of the marketing puzzle today.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad we are touching on this because the word sustainability has become such a meaningless, hollow buzzword over the last decade.
It really has. It's lost all its impact. And the report makes it incredibly bluntly clear. The era of the vague corporate pledge is completely dead and buried. You know, companies putting out a press release saying, we will magically be net zero by the year 2050. Nobody believes a single word of that anymore.
It just sounds like lazy greenwashing now.
Yeah.
It literally sounds like a corporate delay tactic to avoid doing anything today.
Consumers are deeply, deeply cynical now, and honestly, rightly so. So the massive shift for 2026 is moving heavily towards tangible, immediate value. Brands can't just preach to me that they are saving the melting ice caps. They have to show me exactly how buying this specific sustainable product right now saves me actual money or genuinely lasts 3 times longer than the cheap alternative.
This makes me think of the Vinted example from the report with the influencer Emma Winder.
Yes. So Vinted is a massive secondhand clothing marketplace, and they recently collaborated heavily with the popular YouTuber Emma Winder, but the fascinating thing was their pitch. It wasn't a moral sermon at all. The core message wasn't, you must buy used clothes to save Mother Earth from destruction.
What was the actual message then?
The message was highly practical. Buy used clothes on Vinted to save a ton of your own money and to find much cooler, highly unique vintage styles that nobody else at your school has.
This is brilliant. The sustainability aspect was just a built-in feature. It wasn't the incredibly heavy sermon.
Exactly. It directly validates the user's very human, slightly selfish immediate needs, which are wanting to look cool and needing to save cash in a tough economy, while simultaneously allowing them to casually do the right moral thing for the planet.
It's practical morality.
It is. It's actively meeting the exhausted user exactly where they are today, rather than lecturing them about where you think they morally ought to be.
Okay, so we really need to try to synthesize all of this.
Yeah.
Because we have covered a truly massive amount of ground today.
We really have, from fMRI scans to Nintendo commercials.
We are sitting here in 2026. The collective world is bone-tired. Institutional trust is deeply, maybe permanently broken. Advanced AI is now just the invisible baseline of our lives, but we remain incredibly biologically wary of it. Our actual brains are literally deactivating our core empathy centers when we talk to these hyper-efficient machines.
Right.
And on top of that, the machines are constantly trying to feed us these boring, incredibly safe, flattened stories that completely lack the necessary friction and tension of human reality. So as a massive cultural reaction to all of this, we are currently sprinting as fast as we can towards genuine human connection, messy live events, active creative co-creation, comforting nostalgia, and deeply tangible reality.
It is the ultimate modern paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are collectively using the single most advanced, complex artificial intelligence in the entire history of our species just to try and satisfy our absolute most primal caveman needs.
The need for connection, the need for belonging, deep safety, and real stories.
Exactly. And the brands, and honestly just the individual people who are actually going to win in this highly complex environment, aren't going to be the ones who just try to ruthlessly automate every single process to cut a few cents in costs. That path just leads straight into the uncanny valley and ends in a pile of AI slop.
It literally leads to biological rejection by the market.
It does. The ultimate winners in 2026 and beyond will be the ones who actually follow Joanna Massajoska's brilliant advice, the ones who let the AI do the metaphorical laundry.
Let the machine handle the massive data sorting, the complex calendar scheduling, the mind-numbing translation work, the total drudgery of modern life.
Yes, so that we, the humans, can radically double down on the art. The wildly complex, messy stories, the unpredictable, live, physical experiences, the deep, actual empathy that requires an active insula to feel.
We essentially have to consciously, deliberately choose to engage those vital parts of our brain, the insula, the MCC, the entire social cognition network. We actively have to fight back against this creeping neural flattening.
That is a remarkably powerful thought to end on. The human imperative isn't just some catchy marketing agency slogan for 2026. It is a literal, evolutionary, biological necessity. If we don't actively use those specific empathetic parts of our brain every day, we genuinely might lose them.
Or at the very least, they will get very, very weak, and we'll forget how to use them when we actually need them with each other. So here is the final provocation for you, the listener. Something to really chew on after this deep dive is over. We've learned today that frequently interacting with AI naturally pushes us to be much more utilitarian. It fundamentally makes us less socially conscious. And it aggressively feeds us narratives that completely lack true moral diversity and human tension.
It constantly, quietly offers us a totally frictionless, perfectly flattened version of the world.
So the real challenge for you is exactly this. As you inevitably integrate all these incredible, hyper-powerful digital tools into your daily life, and you really should, because they are undeniably powerful and they're absolutely here to stay, you have to constantly ask yourself one specific question.
Are you using these tools to actively expand your own humanity, or are you passively letting them flatten it?
Are you purposefully using the machine to clear the boring deck so you can be more wildly, creatively human? Or are you, day by day, slowly becoming more and more like the machine itself?
That is the defining question for 2026.
And honestly, it's probably the defining question for the rest of our entire lives.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you so much for taking this massive deep dive with us today. We really covered a lot. We will see you back here for the next one.
Stay human out there.